job destruction is a real thing that we are going to see because of AI.
We believe there will be a net job gain.
You have to put Bitcoin back into the equation to understand what's going on here in an agentic world with Bitcoin as the base layer. The economy is going from the hamster wheel to the flywheel. The flywheel economy is what we have here.
A lot of people feel very distant and unrepresented because of the inefficiencies of a fiat and paper world. We went overnight from a country where many did not have any access to medical advice to instant access to top-tier medical advice. If you're reporting a crime, you'll be able to do all the reporting through your WhatsApp using AI.
Universal basic income, give everyone an income. What about UBA, universal basic access? Bitcoin eventually destroys a centralized government. You're seeing the emergence of a whole new social contract between the government and the governed.
It makes a lot of sense that you guys are optimists. I think the two of you are, and it comes through in the AI report and everything that you do. But job destruction is a real thing that we are going to see because of AI. And you highlight that it's amazing for individuals who are agentic and can go out there with ideas and try things out. But we also know from Bitcoin that there's a lot of people that don't want to take that responsibility, right? There's a lot of people who just like to sort of follow along and have some orders and complete them. So you say that you will project to create 100 to 125,000 jobs through AI in El Salvador through 2031. But what about the call center workers and the accountants and the everyday people that will see their jobs taken away because of this technological revolution?
We believe there will be a net job gain because of AI. History shows that every new technology creates new jobs, that we can't even imagine necessarily right now. Data center jobs, those didn't exist 5 years ago, right? Or 10 years ago. Those are new. Call center jobs, maybe they'll be disrupted. We do see massive disruption happening, but anybody who's used AI, okay, and I use AI a lot, and I'm sure you do too, Rob, has your workload gone up or down?
You work more. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. The output per human is going to increase. And that is always leads to wealth, right? That's the path to wealth. So the wealthier we get, the more demand there's going to be for all sorts of things, and new jobs are going to be created, and the newly wealthy are going to, want more experiences. There might be some new, potential in tourism that we don't know about, or live entertainment, or all sorts of jobs that we just can't imagine. Maybe Max can say he has a great imagination, but for me, I just feel like it seems obvious just based on history that the same thing happened with the internet. There was an explosion of jobs. I saw somebody note that like the advent of the iPhone and these brilliant cameras on your phone, they didn't destroy the jobs of photographers. There are now more, according to the IRS and Treasury data, there are more photographers now in 2020, like last year, 2025, than there were in 2015 in the United States, earning an income from photography. How is that possible if the brilliant technology of these amazing like phone on cameras, like how did that not destroy those photographer jobs, right? They didn't, the technology just created more wealth, of course, in the United States, and therefore people wanted to hire a professional photographer to take photos of their events and things like that. So that's what happened with AI. That the iteration factor of being able to try so many things, films, like to iterate your film and see what this set might look like. My background is in Hollywood, and so there were a lot of doom-mongering headlines at first saying, "Oh, AI is going to replace everything," but you see easily that that's not the case. Okay, XAI is one of the biggest AI companies in the world, and yet X is they erected a iron slop dome, right? What? So they don't want AI slop because nobody likes AI slop. AI is never going to be more beautiful and amazing than humans, right? And I said this at my Sav AI Summit speech, is like, when you see a backflipping robot, people are like, wow, that's amazing. But it's human invention that made that robot do the backflips, right? That robot wouldn't be backflipping or breakdancing if it weren't for human invention. Like, it'll always rely on human invention. So that's also part of our AI strategy report, is everything we're doing here in El Salvador. It's so it's so Renaissance like that we do not just think of like, oh, we'll just pass this law or we'll have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We are always working on mindset and education and having that. We have a program with ARC Educate, for example, and what it teaches children as young as 7 is an innovation mindset, right? So we're teaching these mindsets to people to use the tools that are available to them to liberate themselves and therefore all of humanity.
To follow up on a couple of points there. So chess has never been more popular, even though, remember, Big Blue conquered the Grandmasters, and people thought, oh, I guess no one's going to play chess anymore. But it's never been more popular, right? That's one that's often cited. In El Salvador, and this idea that jobs are lost due to AI, I think you have to put Bitcoin back into the equation to understand what's going on here, where the economy is going from the hamster wheel to the flywheel. So in the hamster wheel economy, everybody is chasing the fiat money dollar, and it keeps losing purchasing power. And it really destroys society in a lot of ways, because particularly if you graduate from college and you have a lot of debt, are you going to take the job you really want, or are you going to take the job you need to pay off that debt? So are you really getting satisfaction out of your life, or are you just paying back the bank the debt you took on to get through on this idea that this was the path toward happiness and prosperity in the world? But the flywheel economy is what we have here, an economy emerging. It's called the circular economy. It's the circular Bitcoin economy. It's happening first at Bitcoin Beach, where the Bitcoin revolution first started here in El Salvador. And it's migrating and proliferating to communities all over the country. And it's just, you're earning in Bitcoin, you're spending in Bitcoin, and you're saving in Bitcoin. So everything is Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin is your base layer, that means that you're never experiencing the hamster wheel economy. You're experiencing the flywheel economy, where everybody in the community's purchasing power is rising in unison. I also say this is another argument, or another kind of interesting, intriguing aspect of what's happening in El Salvador, is that you don't have gentrification as you would in other situations, other countries that are experiencing rapid growth, because Bitcoin is the base layer. So all boats are rising. The rising tide is lifting all boats. This is the first time this has ever happened. And so the satisfaction across every economic strata is equal in a lot of ways, because of the Bitcoin presence in the economy, whether you're using it actively or not. The mindset is still there. So you have this potential for people to do what they really want to do. I really want to weave baskets. I really want to collect shells on the beach. I really want to be a prompter, for a major S&P 500 company. Whatever it is you want to do, if you're getting compensated in Bitcoin, your purchasing power is going to increase, and you're going to have that flywheel effect, where what determines and your understanding of satisfaction and happiness will change along with this AI revolution and Bitcoin revolution. And the two are very much pari passu. They very much go together, in my view, which is, again, we talked about that at the Sav AI Summit here in El Salvador. So I think people are not taking on board how the fundamental nature of compensation and the relationship between of someone who's working for an organization, how that's going to metamorphose when you under this new technological umbrella. And we will see it here in El Salvador, because El Salvador, as Stacy says many times, the reason why a lot of companies are moving here is that they can, and she can speak more on this, it's a test bed, so they can deploy. Which is something that is unique almost to El Salvador, because we have this incredible vertical political structure where things can happen very quickly. But it's a key component in how the company is transforming, is yes, we can deploy.
Yeah, and being on X, as the three of us are, we think that the whole entire world is using AI every single day. Well, that's just not really the case. And there's a whole large swath of America that has no idea what's capable right now, right? But the cool thing that I've learned about El Salvador is that you guys are putting AI into the hands of the people with XAI, the tutor, and then Dr. SV, the medical app that you partner with Google to create, right? So talk about what are the average El Salvadoran experience with these AI apps and how are they using them?
Yeah, so if you look at Dr. SV here in El Salvador, it's a developing economy. So unlike the United States or Europe that are developed economies, so we're a developing economy, and there were many communities, very remote rural communities, for example, who did not have access at all, for some of them, to medical services, to world-class medical services. Now, like, we went overnight from a country where many did not have any access to medical advice to, as soon as you downloaded the app, it was instant access to top-tier medical advice. And so the population of El Salvador, if you think of their mindset, how far ahead it is of the rest of the world. Not only has El Salvador got a population in which a greater percentage of the population has owned Bitcoin than anywhere else in the world, and all the studies have shown that. I forget which Cornell University did a study on that. And then now it's the only national deployment of an AI-enabled app like this that showed and demonstrated to the world this instant access to whatever your income level is, or whether you're in a city or a rural area. And, around the world, even in the United States, there's a big problem with rural access to quality healthcare. We see that in North Carolina, where we have a house, and, we're up near Duke and UNC medical hospitals, the teaching hospitals. And, people from way in the rural parts of North Carolina have to travel up 3 hours to access quality healthcare in the cities. So it's a problem around the world. But now you have a much greater instant access to top quality medical advice available thanks to AI. So we're also rolling out, and this was announced at the Salve AI Summit. We have our permitting office. Some of your permits for, as Max mentioned, there are buildings going up everywhere. The transformation is not only, it's physical, it's cultural, it's historical, but everybody wants to build here. Everybody's moving here. Everybody wants to build here. Everybody wants to get in on ground zero as we're building the new El Salvador. And so the permitting process, again, it could take a long time in every country in the world. And a lot of it is, of course, just total inefficiency, that you have to hand fill it out, all these, like, the same documents that everybody's doing. And then a human has to go through it and read it and blah, blah, blah. Now it's going to be all AI enabled. And whereas it might have taken, say, 5 weeks or 6 weeks, it's now going to take 5 or 6 minutes to get your permits versus the previous version. The same thing where we announced the Fiscalia. So if you're reporting a crime, you'll be able to, maintain communication with the police department through your WhatsApp, which everybody if you've ever been to Latin America, El Salvador is no exception. Everybody uses WhatsApp here. So you'll be able to do all the reporting through your WhatsApp using AI. So the social contract, I guess you can call it, the government services, a lot of people feel very distant and unrepresented because they, the access to the services your taxes pay for is often difficult because of the inefficiencies of a fiat and paper world, and just the human ability to process massive amounts of data. Even the bureaucrats don't know all the processes and the laws and the regulations. Whereas AI, obviously, the infinite intelligence aspect of it, that it could instantly access all that information and provide you such a better, interaction with the government services that you pay for.
Yeah, just listening to this conversation, it's sparked some ideas. So the word access is a very interesting word. So I'm thinking about UBI, Universal Basic Income, and people talking about that. There's going to be a huge job displacement. People are going to lose their jobs. Let's talk about UBI, Universal Basic Income, give everyone an income. And of course, the pushback on that is it de-incentivizes people to do stuff, to work, to become something, a higher goal in their lives, because they're getting this basic income and they kind of plateau, if you will. That's what's been proven, in many times this has been tried. So what about UBA, Universal Basic Access? Mm-hmm. So you have everybody in the community has complete and total access to this AI, to this infinite intelligence pool, that they can, to Stacy's point, essentially bypass all the bureaucratic friction. It's anti-inertia. Inertia is a great enemy of productivity. You tend to, once you get into a stop, it's tough to get going again. So if the amount of energy it costs to get going again is virtually zero, so you never actually stop in this agentic world. You're always moving through it because it's essentially free in a lot of ways. If in fact the government provides universal basic access, which they can do, particularly in El Salvador, because their cost of volcanic and geothermal energy is constantly dropping, and their ability to attract the best AI companies and architects and entrepreneurs is increasing by the day, because they have the ability to deploy, which is something you don't find in other countries, and it's attracting the best and the brightest. This is going to be a whole different mindset. Again, it gets back to this idea where Bitcoin eventually destroys the state. Bitcoin eventually destroys a centralized government. I think, in my view, kind of my opinion, you're seeing kind of the emergence of a whole new social contract between the government and the governed. And so that's very exciting. And, these technological revolutions happen quite often throughout history, and there's huge changes that occur. And but thinking of it more kind of creatively, I can see how this could play into the ability to lift up pretty much everybody simultaneously. Again, with that aesthetic. If the aesthetic is pure, you're going to always be in the right direction. And aesthetics are not. It's not subjective. Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. It's hard coded in the DNA. What is beautiful, we intrinsically would know. And if we follow that arrow, that vector, and we can do so universally and with great precision and ease in an agentic world with Bitcoin as the base layer, the possibilities are quite fascinating and beautiful.
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you could drop a like and a share, it would help in our mission to accelerate adoption. If you're looking for more Bitcoin signal, join over 10,000 readers of our newsletter, Bitcoin News Weekly. Every Monday morning, we send out the biggest headlines of Bitcoin to keep you in the know in under 5 minutes. Links below in the description. Then come hang with us live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We break it all down live on stream with a new guest, and you can add your 2 cents in the chat. See you next week.